Hi, I'm making this video on the subject of the crisis that we are all enduring throughout this pandemic. To say I feel strongly is an understatement. I'm angry and I'm very frustrated. And this is something that's been on my mind for nearly 2 months now, because there is a far, far better way, and I can't believe they've missed it. With all the experts around the world working on our behalf, but either they've really missed this, or maybe worse, there's another agenda that's in play. I have a suggestion in mind that is more effective, far less disruptive to our lives, and exponentially cheaper, both financially and in the cost of lives. It could and it should have been implemented from day one, with what the experts already knew. Now, I know this is way above my pay grade. It's way above my expertise. And it's way above the moral standards of those that we have entrusted to lead us through this crisis. And oh, how they are failing us. Every national leader is failing in keeping its citizens safe from the virus and safe from the economic ruin. But I am urging you, please give me these few minutes of your time, and I'm sure you will agree. Simply put, I feel compelled to get my idea out to a wider audience so that if it reaches the right people, then maybe it can be acted on in a way that I'm personally not able to. I'm talking about how we can protect ourselves from catching the coronavirus, which has become all too real for all of us. It's a pandemic that has wreaked havoc on every single citizen in the world. And I hope everyone that listens to this will also completely agree with me, and thus feel, as I do, compelled to share this particular video post with everyone, absolutely everybody you possibly can, until it reaches someone who can develop these thoughts into a reality rather than just talk. As I said, I'm not an expert, and I did say this was way above my pay grade. So thank God it's not rocket science. So let's start with what we know about the virus. It was identified as a novel coronavirus in late December. But it's not until the 20th of January this year that we did receive the warning from the Chinese Center for Diseases Control and Prevention, which is better known as the CDC, that it was transmitted between humans. Now it's a major concern. The Chinese government immediately put Wuhan into quarantine. They also issued a mandatory order for the wearing of masks in public. The Chinese knew the importance of making the mask to stop carriers spreading the virus. And then they stopped all transportation in and out of Wuhan, commencing 10 a.m. the following day. Unfortunately, that was a window of opportunity that allowed more than 100,000 people to gather their essentials and hightail their way out of there. But before the 20th, we didn't even have evidence of human transmission. And so, since then, the chaos has ensued. And don't let our respective governments and their embarrassingly overpaid cronies con you into thinking that they've done everything in their power to keep us safe. They have not. Don't let them con you into believing that it's impossible to predict, because this virus is new. They can't predict its behavior. It's not true. It's a coronavirus. They know that COVID-19 is novel. It's a coronavirus. And there has been so much research and experience gained during the studies into MERS and SARS. And plus, COVID-19 is 99% identical to the bat SARS coronavirus. So the scientists had a pretty good idea what they were dealing with. They also know A coronavirus is an infectious disease, and they know it causes severe acute respiratory syndrome, which spreads from tiny droplets secreted from the nose and, from the throat and nasal passages from a carrier. And it's discharged into the air around us by coughing and sneezing and even what I'm doing, talking, speech. And COVID-19 is not just infectious, it's an extremely contagious strain of coronavirus. We know that now. The experts, they knew that the virus was when the virus was first identified, which is why in China and subsequently Hong Kong, Taiwan, Vietnam, South Korea, to name a few, all gave mandatory orders for masks to be worn in public. Why? Because it works. It slows down the spread of the virus. And as I said, it really isn't rocket science. It's not perfect. Masks were being advised to wear. But the masks that they're advising us to wear, they're not an ideal response to a pandemic. Not really. What, a paper mask? A cloth mask? Anything you get your hands on mask, like a scarf? It's not ideal. And the message too is sketchy, to say the very least. If some do wear the mask and some do not wear the mask, what result do you really expect to get? Everyone has to be on board if you want anything to succeed to its maximum potential. We know that. We always have done. So, and I'm going to refer to the US. Most of my research tends to come from watching TV. I'm here in the Philippines, from information I receive on the US channels, whether it be CNN and others. But I will give a lot of my information, as I said, comes from the US. So I asked, what was the response in the US and obviously other countries in the Western world? Once this community spread of the virus was identified, well, every nation, as far as I'm aware, had their own task force with their most brilliant minds. And in the US, they believe, so we're constantly reminded, that they've got the best in the world. And in combination with the World Health Organization and the highly prized and most highly acclaimed US Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, that is what they were getting all the advice from. But yet, immediately, mayhem starts. Instead of a clear message, we get bombarded with misinformation, followed by more misinformation and full-scale confusion at nothing but a mind-boggling rate, with promises to develop vaccines and treatments at warp speed. In fact, the pharmaceutical corporations were breaking speed records in the race to be the first with a vaccine or treatment. What? Please correct me if I'm wrong, but if this is a highly contagious disease, as we have been led to believe, first, the minimum requirement, block it, stop the spread, and message out clear and present danger. Mandatory wearing of mask in public. Any face covering is better than nothing for now. There's absolutely no messages that were in fact sent out to the general public as the one and only protective tool that we have right now. It's the only thing. So mask up immediately. Then you get, in my opinion, those super brilliant minds and business leaders to develop the best and the most sophisticated protective face mask that money can buy. Because the mask works, okay? But a purpose-made antiviral mask that people understand will save lives and not a bloody homemade bandana, It will be a life-saving tool that's at our disposal when needed, like when we're threatened by a bloody deadly virus, like now and in the future. We can make them clear so CCTV can still pick out the criminal. Like my glasses, you can still see my eyes, yeah? And I can tell if I'm speaking to you, if you're laughing at me behind your mask. These are fair concerns regarding wearing masks, and these are some of the objections to people not wearing masks. But a high-tech, crystal clear face mask with an antiviral surface, anti-fogging properties so they don't steam up, 100% protection from these nasty little viruses with stylish and comfortable fittings, and distribute them to every single person in the nation for mandatory wear in public, so that the entire country, in fact, the entire world, does not need to close down and go into hiding. And meanwhile, you can take your scientists and let them spin their hopes and dreams of winning that race for developing the first vaccine or treatment for the big pharmas to have their wet dreams over. It's not complicated, and it's not even new. We already have surfaces which have been impregnated with antiviral properties developed already. Plastics, clear glass, crystal clear, bulletproof glass. And we have so many modern day materials to make the ideal mask. And I'm pretty sure there will be new developments that would become available to make the mask even better in the future. So here's my point. Let's just assume that each mask costs the hefty sum of $100 to produce. If every single citizen was supplied one, say in the US, 350 million people, times by $100, that's $35 billion. In the UK, you're looking at $6.5 billion. That's dollars, not pounds. That's around 4.8 billion pounds. Tip of the current iceberg. Testing and contract tracing would be so much easier to do, as contacts would be restricted to households, not strangers on the bus. If you've spoken to someone and they want to contract trace them, I don't know who they were, I don't know their name. How does that work? But if you can do contract tracing, that you know anybody that has got an infection is highly likely only to have contaminated people within their own household. The virus needs a host. Within 4 weeks, without the virus getting what it wants, the virus will die out. It's not like we need wear a mask for the rest of our lives, but for sure it will be our first and possibly our only required defense for not just COVID-19, but for any of its likely mutations in the future and any other airborne viruses that actually haven't even haven't even started now. Just think for a moment. That includes potentially eradicating influenza. If you choose not to expose yourself to germs in public and wear a mask, then you can't get influenza, which would be fantastic for those that actually are at high risk of having complications with influenza. And don't be fooled by the social distancing. If we all wear the mask in public, then public surfaces, public places will be safe. Surely that is preferable to the current social distancing rules, because someone may have coughed or sneezed next to a chair that you are sitting next to. In fact, experts can't even agree what is a safe distance. First, it's 1 meter. Now they believe it's 6 or 7 meters is necessary. And they don't know, because realistically in the real world, we walk past one another. That if it's in the atmosphere, there's a small risk of you catching the virus, no matter where you are, how far apart you are from speaking to someone. Me, I suggest approximately 1 inch, the distance from a carrier's mouth to the end of his own nose. Now, substantially more than 1 inch for some. You probably know who you are. And please, don't be party to the "you can't make me wear a mask in public. You can't make it mandatory." That's bullshit. If you knew a poisonous gas was discharged into your neighborhood, you would be scratching each other's eyes out to get hold of a mask. This is the responsibility, indeed the duty, of all presidents and prime ministers to ensure we have the best possible teams of experts for every department of government. The CDC is meant to be just that. It's for diseases. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. That's what the CD stands for. I guess they think control means treatments. You control the virus's illness with treatments. And I guess prevention relates to vaccines. But a vaccine's only preventative after the event with a new virus. I'm not suggesting that they should not get together to find new treatments and vaccines, but we need protecting now. And a vaccine isn't here, so it's not preventing anything. It might prevent it in 2 years' time, if we're lucky, or whenever. But it's not preventative now. We need protecting now. I'm not suggesting that we need to control the spread of the virus. Prevention is better than cure. Vaccines not yet developed are no better than a pipe dream. So please, please wake up. Only today I'm listening to the news discussing the task force, and although it seems to have gone quiet, they are in fact working very hard behind the scenes. And more hopes, more promises from our medical professionals. I thought science was more than just medicine. If this needs a different kind of expert, maybe an aeronautical engineer design, then get your experts from there as well. Has no one in the task force whose job is to protect us from this crisis even considered this? Why not? Here's a thought. These medical experts and professionals are all working for the big pharmas. A mask that protects you from breathing in all those nasty germs that the general public may be spreading, and it stops the wearer from breathing their own germs over an unsuspecting crowd? I ask you, who makes that mask? It's not the big pharmas. Oh, no, 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 no. They won't want that. Maybe they have considered it. Maybe it's been very, very well considered. And maybe it's why I am so confused that something so simple, so perfect, has not been advised and not been acted on. When something is generally so logical and I can't get that crack on it, my personal experience tells me there is an ulterior motive. It's inconceivable to believe that there is actually a deliberate mandate responsible. However, whether it is deliberate or merely massive incompetence, I believe that what I'm suggesting would work and it should be implemented before it's truly too late. Enough lives have been lost and enough financial pain has already been endured. And on just one more little thought, another $2 trillion are being earmarked to ease the financial burden in the US. I ask you, where has all this extra money actually come from? If they had used it, if it had been available earlier to ease the suffering of all those less privileged citizens, maybe there would be less crime. I don't know, less hatred in this world, less racism. But that's for another time. And thank you. Thank you for listening to me, droning on. But I ask again, if you do agree, or even if you don't agree, please share. God bless.